Welcome to Around the World on 8 Plates. In this series, we're going to visit different countries and introduce these countries to you by providing information regarding itinerary. We're also going to teach you how to cook signature dishes from these countries and interview locals from these countries so that you can have a better understanding of what these countries are all about. So join me, your host Jojo Tang, as we go around the world on 8 Plates. Presented to you by National Taiwan Normal University, Common Core Education Committee, Foreign Language Education Division. Previously on Around the World on 8 Plates, we went to Italy.
After Italy, we went to Bangladesh.
Then we went to the country of Sudan.
Now we're going to a new country. Where are we going? Here is a clue.
Hello everyone and welcome to Around the World on 8 Plates. Today we're going to another country. Which country is it? Here is your first clue. It's honey monologue time. Alright, so I was moving to another house and somebody gave me a box of old stuff and I couldn't open it. So I was like, hey, I need a box cutter. Oh, box cutter. That reminds me, I need to start filming for today's episode. So based on the monologue, can you guess which country we're visiting today?
Let's all say Marhaban bikum fi Qatar or Welcome to Qatar. And today we're going to teach you how to make Margoog, a meat and vegetable stew. Before cooking, let me introduce a sample itinerary for this beautiful country.
After landing at the airport of the country that we're featuring today, what would be a good itinerary?
On the first day, drive yourself to the neighboring town of Al-Khor. Over there you can go house hunting so that you can see how Qataris live. You can also see beautiful mansions and big houses. This small city covers an area of around 1,600 kilometers squared, and the design of these houses are traditionally very Qatari. If you go there, you will see the Al Bayt Stadium. What's so special about this stadium? Well, the World Cup in 2022 had the first game, and the first game was held in this stadium.
One interesting thing about this stadium is that when the engineers designed the stadium, they said that it was essential to have a retractable roof so that if it rains, the audience can still watch the matches. They also had this inventive idea to build a hotel so that people staying at the hotel can watch the games right in the comfort of their own rooms.
So what to do on the second day? Well, just stay in the city. Your plan for day 1 and day 2 will definitely contradict each other because on the second day, you will see lots of modern buildings. Along the Corniche, you will see buildings with a range of shapes and sizes. And if you look closely, you'll notice that each building is intricately designed with aspects of its culture. Maybe they should publish a book on how to design buildings so that we can have more buildings like that in Taiwan. To the citizens of Qatar, their culture is very important. And the street lights design is no exception. Even the shade for the parking looks like a Qatari tent. Of course, the city does not only offer the Corniche as a tourist spot. And if you're lucky, you'll get to see some military personnel training their camels for some military exercise. Day 1 was all about houses. Day 2 was all about buildings. Day 3, I would say, is all about Renaissance art. First, in the morning, make your way to the Museum of Islamic Art. Before entering the museum, you'll see a beautiful fountain with a driveway. Once inside, you will see art from different periods in Qatari history. Next, if you like architecture and religion, you should travel to Education City Mosque. This mosque is very special because of a number of reasons. First, its design is an exception to the rule. because it is a very modern structure. Second, the whole structure is supported by 5 pillars representing the 5 pillars of Islam. And everywhere around the mosque, you can find writings from the Quran. Let's take a few seconds to look at these writings. Last but not least, make your way to the National Museum of Qatar. Outside, there are different sculptures and fountains, and when you go inside, you'll learn that the mission of the museum is to celebrate Qatar's culture, heritage, and future. By the end of the third day, you'll realize that in spite of Qatar's modernity, there's still a lot of tradition. Before teaching you how to cook today's special dish, we are going to introduce today's country even more. So, look at the information on the screen so that you can learn more about the country that we are featuring today. First, a list of ingredients. Beef or lamb, 1 to 2 potatoes, 1 carrot, 1 onion, garlic to taste, 1 chili pepper, 1 tomato, 1 beef or chicken bouillon cube, 3 to 4 bay leaves, cinnamon, dried coriander, ground cumin, and finally, you will need some black pepper. So, the bay leaves, the cinnamon, the dried coriander, and the cumin and the black pepper are your spices. First step, crush the tomatoes and leave the chili peppers alone. Then slice and dry the lime until it's fully dried. Next, in a hot pan, add some hot oil and then use the hot oil to saute or stir fry or quick fry the sliced onions. Yum, 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 yum. After a few minutes, go to the next step. So now you have to add the chopped garlic and the spices. Remember, the spices are bay leaves, cumin, cinnamon, dried coriander, and black pepper. Put everything in the pan. Please take note that the bay leaves are not in powder form. You have to add whole bay leaves. The next step is to add the beef or the lamb. Remember, this is a dish that is famous in a Muslim country, and that's why they don't eat pork. Now you have two choices. One, lamb or beef. But of course, if you want, you can also mix some beef and lamb together and cook it that way. Of course, you have the option of using minced meat or whole pieces of meat. If it is whole pieces of meat, it is also a good idea to add the meat with the bone so that it can give it some more flavor. So look at what you're seeing right now. It's meat with a bone. Now you have to transfer everything to a pot and you're going to add the beef or chicken bouillon cube. And then you're going to add the tomatoes inside. Add some water too. Now let's go to the 7th step. So your meat is cooking in the water. So it's going to get soft. So while that is happening, you prepare the other vegetables. So remember, you'll need carrots and potatoes, and you'll need to peel the carrots and potatoes as well as to slice them into cubes. Now, remember the potatoes and carrots? Add them into the soup or the stew, and then you cook until the meat is soft or tender. Mmm, smells good. Finally, if it's not salty enough, you can season with some more salt. And you can serve with chopped vegetables or herbs on top. And there you have it, the recipe for today's wonderful dish. And I hope you enjoyed this very, very hearty stew. Today's dish again is Margoog, a meat and vegetable stew from Qatar. In case you need it, here is the written recipe for today's dish. I hope you enjoy making and consuming or eating today's dish. It's time to welcome our special guest or guests for today because we have two guests. Let's welcome the first guest.
Thanks for allowing me to interview you. So, can you tell me something nice about Qatar?
Yeah, well, I lived there for a couple of years, and it is, it does resemble a lot of its neighbors. I mean, these petrochemical-rich countries, Qatar is in between Saudi Arabia and Dubai. I mean, if Dubai is extremely liberal and Saudi is extremely conservative, they say that Qatar is in between. So they're trying to strike a balance between, because I don't think they want to attract the same kind of tourists,
Yep.
the same kind of tourists that goes to Dubai. And of course, Saudi does not really have a lot of tourists. They
Right.
have, more or less, they have religious visitors for Mecca and the Hajj.
Yeah.
So it is a pretty quiet place, but Qatar is a pretty small country in comparison to its neighbors.
Right.
But what they lack in size, I think they have made up in this. There's this terminology called soft power.
Yes.
So Qatar is not as big as Saudi or not as big as its neighbors, but it really does make up for soft power. So when you say soft power, what do you mean? It doesn't exert its influence through muscle or their military.
Yeah.
More or less, they have Al Jazeera.
Okay. Yes.
Being based there, so they know that if they are like the center of the free media in the Middle East,
Yep.
that's a lot of soft power. Another one is the airline.
Yep.
Since they really do not have a domestic market, what they do is as much as possible, they've tried to attract international travelers to use Doha as a transit point. And Qatar Airways, which I was an employee of and I worked there for a couple of years, they really have succeeded beyond the wildest imaginations
Yeah.
of many airline enthusiasts. Now Doha is considered to be a major hub,
Right.
right beside Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And Qatar is a small country, but it packs a lot of punch in terms
Right.
of exerting its influence. And it's a really well prepared country. So I
Okay.
guess that's one of the good things that I have to say. I mean, this is a country that prepares and
Yep.
knows what their future is going to be
Right.
like, and they have spent their money in the right way. So that's the one thing that I liked about Qatar. As a country, there's not really a lot to see. I mean,
Yep.
Doha is your typical run-of-the-mill rich Arab Gulf state. So
Yep.
pretty a lot of buildings, but in terms of variety, you really won't see much because the population is really small.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they want to attract artsy people or
Okay.
the artsy crowd. So I guess that's why they're developing all these museums and
Mm-hmm.
they want it to be a cultural. And that's about it. I mean, it's a nice place. I've lived there. It's quiet, safe, and can't say more.
I think, like what impresses me more about a country, it's not the natural beauty, because the natural beauty, it's given. But what
Yeah.
impresses me is how the government makes sure that the country is attractive to to investors and tourists in spite of the natural beauty.
But he lives in the UK.
He is going to tell us more about this wonderful country.
It's expensive?
It's not cheap.
Okay,
Not cheap at all.
right.
Yeah.
What are the places to visit in Qatar?
There's not much there. If
Okay.
you're looking, it's a lot of desert.
Okay.
If you're looking for like places like, let's say for example, if you just want like to explore for 5-6 days,
Right.
there's obviously there's places like you get the restaurants and the like, you have the Palm in Dubai.
Yeah.
It's very similar like that.
Okay, right.
But it's not much
Okay,
to do there.
right.
And you know how in Dubai you can actually travel to another emirate,
Yeah.
or you can go to another place and see like you can go to Oman and you see that whole sinkhole.
Right.
Yeah. Over in Qatar you can't. You don't see that. Seriously. Like it's not.
Where are we going next? Stay tuned for the next episode as we once again slowly and carefully go around the world on 8 plates.